Time now for Morning Rounds with CBS News Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Jon LaPook and CBS News contributor Dr. Holly Phillips. First up, actress Hayden Panettiere announced this week she's getting treatment for postpartum depression. Hundreds of thousands of women are battling the condition. Jon has one mother's story.
Lauren Safran was 34 when she gave birth to her first child, a healthy daughter named Lily.
You looked so happy in those pictures. Were you?
No, I was very much the opposite. I was pretty certain I was not going to be able to handle being a mother.
She was suffering from postpartum depression. Every year, about 4 million women give birth. Anywhere from 8 to 19% report having frequent symptoms of depression. That's more than 300,000 women every year. Dr. Catherine Burndoff of New York Presbyterian treats women with postpartum illness.
The biggest myth about postpartum depression is that it doesn't exist. There are people who really believe that it isn't possible to be depressed or upset or struggle around such a miraculous event as having a baby.
Safran was successfully treated with therapy and antidepressants and is now a therapist for women facing the same struggle she had.
When you look at them now and you think back to how you were feeling at the time they were born, what goes through your mind?
It almost doesn't feel like it was me. You know, it feels so far away.
The adjustment to motherhood, this is not easy. And the idea that we want women to do it effortlessly and smoothly and with a smile on their face is an enormous problem.
So, Jon, how do women know if they might be suffering from this?
Right. Well, awareness is so important. It can be common for women to have some change in mood, irritability, sadness right after they give birth. And usually this resolves in about 2 weeks. If it lasts longer than 2 weeks, or if it's very severe, then that's a warning sign and they really need to contact their doctor because you can get help. And here's a stunning statistic. At least 50% of postpartum depression goes unrecognized. Need to remove the stigma, increase awareness.
A new report highlights the dangers of dietary supplements. The government health study blames supplements for sending 23,000 people to the emergency room each year and putting more than 2,000 in the hospital. A lot of people use dietary supplements. So is there a way for us to distinguish which are the bad ones?
Well, you know what? It's very difficult. There are so many supplements out there, and they tend to fall into 3 categories. There's weight loss, energy enhancement, sexual performance improvement, and then just vitamins. Now, what was interesting about the CDC report is that the majority of ER visits actually happened in young people, people in their 20s and 30s, and they had many cardiac complications. So we're thinking chest pain, cardiac arrhythmias, that's where you have an irregular heartbeat or an accelerated heartbeat, shortness of breath. These can be very, very serious effects. And you're right, Vanita, one survey found about half of Americans take at least one supplement every month.
We should say the Council for Responsible Nutrition, which represents the supplement industry, says, quote, we estimate that far less than 0.1% of dietary supplement users experience an emergency room visit annually. Despite that, Jon, I mean, that's a small number. But why is this happening? Is there regulation on these supplements?
Well, it's not strongly regulated by the FDA. They don't have to be shown to be safe or effective. They don't need FDA approval. Now, if something happens, then after the fact, the FDA can take action, and they've done that in the past. But yes, it is true, generally they're very safe, but think of that statistic. If half of American adults use supplements, that's more than 100 million people. So even if there's a very tiny percentage that run into trouble, it came out to 23,000 people a year. That's a lot of people.
It's the word natural, I think, that throws a lot of people off. They assume natural means you're fine.
100%. Now, I know this has been said 1,000,000 times, but I'm about to say it 1,000,001. Natural doesn't mean safe. And, you know, a lot of patients don't tell their doctors that they are taking supplements. And I think in part maybe because they assume that they're safe or they feel like their doctor may disapprove. But it really, really shouldn't be that way. Because even if a supplement is overall safe or even safe for you, it might not be safe when you mix it with another supplement or a prescription medicine.
All right, about 70% of adults will suffer lower back pain during their lifetime. Their pain accounts for up to 5% of all doctors' visits each year. A new study looks at the effectiveness of one course of action, early physical therapy. Jon, what did this study find?
Well, they looked at people with uncomplicated low back pain, muscle strain, for less than 16 14 days. And these were not people with any kind of neurological symptoms or a problem like that. And they compared just sort of the usual care with physical therapy, 4 sessions over a month. And what they found was that the PT group had modest improvement in disability at 1 month and 3 months, but it was not felt to be clinically important. And there was no difference at a year, and there was no difference in pain control. Now, I reached out to Dr. Peter McCann, who's the head of orthopedics at Mount Sinai Beth Israel, New York City, and he said really 4 sessions over a month is not very many sessions, is kind of minimal, and he said, quote, it's like trying to get in shape working out 30 minutes once a week. He did stress the importance of early education, so they did say to both groups that this pain tends to be self-limited, and it's important to stay as active as possible, you know, given the pain. For example, do not just stay in bed all day long.
Right. So what does this mean for people with lower back pain? Is physical therapy an important part of this?
Right. Well, you know, just as Jon said, there really is no cookie-cutter solution to back pain. What works for one person may not work for another. But really the basis of healing back pain comes down to 3 things. Time. Staying physically active, as we talked about, just modestly physically active, so you're not lying in bed, and then really emphasizing the trying not to re-injure yourself, and that comes down to prevention. So you need to practice good posture, stretch before and after exercise, and keep a good diet, because if you become overweight, that'll put stress on the low back. So it's really about prevention that's much more effective than treatment.
Well, finally this morning, many lovers have had to win over future in-laws. So what is the best way to do that? A new study in the journal Human Nature suggests skipping the gifts and the dinners. Instead, it finds the so-called I am right for your child method was the most successful. That means showing future in-laws what a good influence you are on their daughter or their son. It's cheaper. That solution is cheaper.
Usually I like to comment, but this time my name's Bennett. I'm not in it.
I will say, you know, if every guy wins over his mother-in-law, just think about it. It could mean the end of the sitcom as we know it.
That's true. Absolutely true. Dr. Jon LaPook, Dr. Holly Phillips, thank you both very much.